Today, I'm on TAN TV. I'm with Maurice Gibbs, candidate for NAACP San Antonio branch president. Today on TAN TV, we are going to talk about some of the things that make an effective president of the NAACP. We're also going to get to learn more about Mr. Gibbs, and then we also will probably have some summary. So let's jump into it. Mr. Gibbs, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing outstanding, Chris. Thanks for having me today.
Very good, very good. Today, I want to ask you some questions about the reasons why you're wanting to run for president of the NAACP for San Antonio. But give us a little bit of a history about your involvement in the overall organization.
Well, thanks, Chris. So I've been involved in the NAACP, our local branch, since about 2010. So I started off as just a basic member, and then shortly thereafter, I joined the Political Action Committee. Shortly after that, I was made the chair of the Political Action Committee. Little by little, more roles started coming into play for me. So I became the assistant treasurer, was elected treasurer. Also, along the way, I was the Freedom Fund chair with me and my wife, Cynthia. We did that for 2 years. And I've been treasurer right now for going on 4 terms now. So being in the branch that long, I've seen a lot, I've learned a lot, and I think it's time to help bring about a different change, a different direction for our local NAACP. So that's why I'm
awesome.
running.
You know, I know that being a part of the branch for some time, that San Antonio has its own civil rights culture. We know that the NAACP is over 113 years of age, and when we're looking at the future of our city and the future of America, what would you say makes the NAACP relevant to a young person who wants to serve, and how have you helped with that support of the young people who want to be the next generation of our leaders?
Well, Chris, I think that NAACP as a whole is still very relevant in our community and also in our country. The local San Antonio branch, I'm not sure if many noticed, but we were one of the oldest branches in the country. And so our local branch has had many things of advocacy throughout the community, and who have definitely helped out with housing, with civil rights in our community. You know, when it comes to our youth, though, I feel as though we're getting more youth involved. We of course have our AXO program. We have our Youth and College Division, and we support both of those very well. But I think that we can do a lot more. I think that with our branch, we do a great job of fundraising thanks to our Freedom Fund Committee and the generosity of the community. So I think that we can do more by helping our college students, as well as our students that are entering college, to help them with scholarships, because that's one thing that we're not doing very well, and we're not effective at that at all. So I think by doing that, we can also bring a new awareness to the NAACP by our youth, and so they can actually see what we're doing and actually help them to want to get more involved with what we're doing.
Mr. Gibbs, can you explain for those individuals who are considering joining the NAACP, why would they join the NAACP under your leadership? What should they expect if you are elected as president?
I think those who are interested in joining NAACP should join, because the NAACP, we have a lot of one in our community. Right now, we don't have a huge voice in our community, and our voice has seemed to diminish over time. And through the political climate that we have right now, and the violence amongst people of color, the discrimination that's going on in our city and our county. I think that we can definitely use the help of those who want to come and join into with that fight. What can people do? I think that what they can do to help this situation is that if they come in and lend their time and their talents, that can really help us, because what happens is that you have a small amount of people doing a whole lot of work, and the more bodies we have to help, that can help us to really grow the organization and expand our reach, and to be able to help get our voice out into the community a lot more. People who would like to join and come under my leadership, if I'm elected president, they'll see that they actually matter. They'll actually see that we're actually, helping with the digital divide, helping our seniors as well as our young people become more acclimated to our technology, so we can actually reach farther and longer throughout our generations and our communities. In addition to that, actually helping to spread more resources throughout the community as well. So I think that's what people will be able to get under my leadership.
So, when we look at San Antonio, Texas, Black people are a very small percentage of the population. I'll let you talk about the percentage of the population, but do you believe that the Black and brown narrative that we oftentimes will hear actually goes against the Black members and those who are trying to be recognized for maybe injustices in which they have been a part of, or the justice that they're seeking? How do you see the Black and brown narratives working effectively for the NAACP San Antonio?
Hmm, that's really deep question, Chris. I think that one, the Black and brown community in San Antonio, we definitely have suffered injustices, and there are more things that are happening, of course, than we hear about in our local papers, on the news, and things of nature. But I think that with the community as a whole, I think that the injustices that are happening with us and to us, that us banding together and then speaking collectively with one voice is the most effective way of doing so. Many times I'm in the community and I'm talking to people once they find out that I'm a member of the NAACP, and they say, "Well, hey, I'm not getting the resources or the support that I think I need from NAACP," and I always encourage them. I say to join. If you join, and then we get to hear your voice, then we can, those areas that we're falling short, we can actually learn from you and actually grow from that. And so I think that will be a huge boost to the NAACP, because everyone knows about us, but how many people are actually working with us and partnering with us to actually make a change in the community?
So, with the one voice that you had talked about, being able to join together and have one voice, gentrification has been a major theme in Texas. When you look at Austin, Texas, the African American community has been just reduced to nothing. And if you're looking at the geography of Texas, and you look at that I-35, the I-35 has divided, the Black community historically on the right side. The east side in Austin was historically Black, and now it's not. San Antonio is going through the same type of change. So what is the NAACP doing about gentrification? Because when you talk about the Black community today, in San Antonio has moved out for the most part, and they're in the Cibolos, the Shirts, the Converses, the Universal Cities, and now they don't have a vote within the city of San Antonio. So how do we even have any type of political power with gentrification working at the speed that it is mirroring Austin?
Gentrification is a problem. I was driving down to the NAACP office today and just looking at all the new homes that are popping up that are actually pricing the individuals that have been there for decades out of their homes, because of course it's driving up the tax rate, and then it's basically pushing people out. of their community. And you're right, the Black community and, people of color, we're in the civil loads, the shirts, the Converse areas. And how do we fix that, and how do we become united? I think it's by joining the NAACP, because it doesn't matter what part of the city that you're in, it does matter that you're a card carrying member of NAACP. And if you're able to join our branch, then we can have a one voice, a collective voice to speak to the politicians, the police, the district attorneys, so they understand that we do have power and our voice does matter. How do we help in gentrification? What is the NAACP helping to do that out in that area? Well, we have our housing division, and we actually help with taking on complaints from citizens in the community. And if there are injustices that are being done, if there are people that are being discriminated against, we are stepping in and doing what we can to assist in those particular areas. Now, what can we do? We can do a lot more. We're not doing enough. And why are we not doing enough? One is that we need more people. We need more help. And the more that are willing to help, the more that we can do in our community.
Okay, thank you. So again, this is Christopher Herring with TAN TV, and we're interviewing J. Maurice Gibbs, who is a candidate for the San Antonio NAACP president position. And we're just getting perspectives today about what would leadership look like under his watch. We know also that when you look at African Americans or Black people, that we are laborers and we are consumers. And so when you're looking at the city of San Antonio, you know that Black people, for the most part, have to travel outside of their communities to work. And so we need advocates. So what does the NAACP do to advocate on the behalf of the people, the laborers, the workers, the consumers that oftentimes feel like they're marginalized, they're not given the full credit of who they are? What do you see in terms of that issue, Mr. Gibbs?
So as far as advocacy work, that's what we're all about. We're to speak for the people who feel so they don't have a voice. And so what can our local branch do? What can we do to help to make sure that people's voices are heard? Is that once we understand, what people's issues are, then we can actually step in and then help in those particular areas. I think one of the problems is that it's kind of like, it goes back to people with voting. There are people who sit back and they complain about, our politician in office. They complain about the way things are going or the way things are not going in their mind. But when you ask them, did they vote? It's like, oh, no, I didn't vote because, it doesn't matter. Yes, your vote does matter. Just like your membership matters, because if you're able to step in and lend your talents, we can actually get things done in a community. Now, I think that when it comes to the NAACP, and earlier you asked a question, and I don't think I really answered it effectively when you asked, what things will look like under my leadership. And I think that when it comes to the officers and the committee members, executive committee members under my leadership, they will feel empowered to do more. Because right now, I feel as though that we're kind of stifled in a way where, our people are still asking the question, where is the NAACP? I mean, when you hear about the shootings of young Black men and people of color in the community, where are we? Why are we not standing up for those? And don't get me wrong, I feel as though we should have a voice and I have a direct line to the police chief, to the sheriff, to the district attorney, but they are there to assist us in helping, not to just be there for someone we can talk to. They need to know that we're here, that we're a loud voice, and that when things are not right, we're going to stand up for it, and you're going to hear from us.
Thank you for saying all of those things. And as we know, right now we're in early voting in Bexar County, and when we're talking about the access that these public officials have to the NAACP, my experience is that we've given them a lot of access when it's time for them to press our flesh for the vote. Um, but when it's the time when we actually have issues in the community, where I've personally seen where there's been certain perceptions. Is it appropriate for an NAACP president to do a driving a program with a police officer during the time where Black Lives Matter rallies are happening because of an injustice? I'll leave it there. Go ahead.
You know, that was an interesting time. I mean, it definitely created a perception issue. When you have people protesting across the city and across the country, and for that fact, around the world, for Black Lives Matters. And when you have our leader appearing to decide on the side of the police, it sent a bad message. I I know, and I work with our current president, and I I want to believe that there was a method to why that happened, and when you have those type of perceptions happen in the community, and when you get that out there, it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths because they wonder, whose side are you fighting on? Are you fighting for the side of the community, or are you more trying to be in line with law enforcement and getting that particular photo op or things of that nature? I want to think that wasn't actually the case. I want to think it was just uh, um, something that looked a lot worse than it was, but we have to be able to stay away from those type of perceptions and do the thing to let people know that the advocacy that we're fighting for, the things that we're fighting for in the community, that we are fighting for them, and that we're um, talking with and being with the politicians and the police and things of that nature. But we're not necessarily don't have to be your friend. You have to understand that you have to know that when something is not right, you're going to hear from us. And I think that's just the way it needs to be.
Yeah. And so if you're looking at some of the current events over the last week that have happened in San Antonio, what are some of the headlines that caught your attention that you thought, and as you think as being the president at NAACP, that you would be somewhat involved with? Because there are some headlines out there about the police shooting, police shooting a young man. There was the incident of the educator, the assistant principal, Tara Hunter, who was recently exonerated and her charges were dismissed based off of Bexar County Sheriff saying that she did a crime that she didn't do. I mean, where does the NAACP get involved? Where you reach out to the people who are going through the storm? Because I know for one instance with Miss Hunter, she had called the NAACP and never got a response back. So this is real time stuff that we're dealing with. So how do we address the emergency issues, the crisis issues that impact real people?
Thank you, Chris. And first of all, I want to say I apologize to Ms. Hunter. I don't know exactly what happened in that situation because I wasn't privy to those phone calls and that conversation. However, you asked the question about what things are happening that kind of give me pause. The one that really stands out to me in recent memory, I was actually visiting family in Tennessee. We were visiting for my mother-in-law's 80th birthday, and I remember reading on the San Antonio Express News about the shooting at McDonald's. Where the young man was in the drive-through, and he was, eating his sandwich, and then the police officer opens the door and says, "Get out of the car." And you're like, what's going on? And then, the next thing door closes and he drives over, and the police officer starts firing at him. And it's like, okay, one, your life wasn't in danger. Okay, the person was driving away from you. Okay, if the person committed some type of crime or whatever, then give chase. But what I understand, and then hearing what Police Chief McManus said, it's not the San Antonio police officer's policy to shoot at a car, especially when when your life is not in danger. And so that car was traveling parallel to him and driving away. Where were we doing that? Why didn't we speak up on that? We should have been in that situation. We should have been in a situation with Hunter. And every single situation that happens that's going on in the community, we don't have to wait for the news media to reach out to us or things of nature. We should be reaching out to them and say, hey, what happened with this? Why is this going on? And even though the president is the spokesperson for the organization, the other members of the executive team and things of nature, they should feel empowered to be able to reach out and ask questions. I'm not saying to speak on behalf, of the NAACP, because that should be reserved for the president, but those type of things should never, ever, ever happen in the community without us having a voice and speaking out on that. Never.
So when we're thinking about, we're thinking about the future, and again, we have people who have been accused of a lot of different things. I know that there's a protocol that the NAACP has at the branch level with the national. How much leeway does a president have to be able to act and serve, or does every social action have to be staffed to the national office for them to give the concurrence for you to be able to do something?
That has been one of the issues that has plagued us for years, especially in our local branch. Now, when it comes to national issues, when it comes to issues that affect the country as a whole, the national office wants us to be in alignment with them. And I understand that and I agree with that. But there are times when things are moving so fast, you don't have time to reach out and say, hey, this is going on, can we have permission to speak on this and this nature? If you're not disparaging the NAACP, and if you're speaking in a voice that is being sentimental to the victims and also while standing up for their rights, why shouldn't we be able to speak about that? Why do we have to stand back and wait for so-called permission in order to speak on those type of things? We should be able to speak out and do those things. And then under my administration, if I am elected as president, you can believe that we will have that voice in the community. We will speak up. Not just to be glory hogs to be on the news all the time and things of nature, but if something is not right, you're going to hear from the local branch.
Yeah, and I know that you've also said that you participate with the Freedom Fund and raising money for the Freedom Fund, and it seems like the NAACP's voice is heard during that time. And I would ask you, one part of what makes NAACP important is that you also help with employers who are, discriminating against employees, and that work is very important. What would you say to the employers about, the NAACP San Antonio under your leadership?
I would say to employers that everyone, regardless to the color of their skin, needs to be treated fairly and equitably. And if there's a situation that comes about that someone brings to our attention, the employee or someone in the community that we find that the employer has actually done something that is not right and has violated those particular principles, you're going to hear from us. Because if that person's civil rights were violated, if they were discriminated against, if they were treated unfairly, when we do our investigation and we found out that's actually the case, you're going to hear from us. As a president, you're definitely going to hear from me. My vice presidents that are under my charge would definitely, be able to be speaking out on those type of things as well, because I feel as though we're a collective group, but we speak in one voice. And as long as we all have an understanding of how that should work, then we can really do great work. So employers, treat your employees right, because otherwise you're going to hear from us.
Okay, and with education, education has also been like a cornerstone of the NAACP's work. What would with the number of charter schools, the public schools, um, what does the NAACP under your leadership? What do you do that really will help to inspire those to not only to complete their education but to continue in higher education?
Well, I can tell you right now that NAACP, even from a national level, we are for charter schools, and we believe that helping our youth get the education that they need is highly important, because you know hopefully those people, those individuals who do get that education, come back and then provide work and help in the community, and help to be able to lift another person up to get them to the level that they are, or even beyond. So as far as the local branch, we are highly supportive of that. We want to be able to help to make sure that everyone has that fair and equitable chance. And you may have noticed a theme, for me throughout: fair and equitable. That's what I feel as though we should be about, and that's one thing I'm definitely going to fight for under my leadership.
So in Bear County, I know that Joe Gonzalez had stood up a civil rights division of the district attorney's office. Has the NAACP been involved with talking to that very civil rights department since it was stood up during COVID? And if so, what have been some of the actions that either you're pleased with or you're not pleased with in that relationship?
Chris, I am a firm believer of not speaking on things that I don't know about and haven't been privy to. So I can say that our current president, I believe he has had conversations. I haven't been privy to all those conversations, other than just some readouts from the meetings that, okay, we talked with the district attorney. Well, we had a meeting with the district attorney, or we had a meeting with the police chief, or we had a meeting with the sheriff, things of nature. So unfortunately, I'm not privy to that, but I can assure you that if I am elected president, that one, we will make sure as many of our members of the executive committee, as well as our elected officers, are a part of those meetings, so we can make sure that one, diverse voices are being heard, and that of course we can get questioning of those individuals, or those the organization, from us, from different points of view, so we can make sure everyone is being represented.
Okay, great, great. So we did get a question from our audience. So, and you said you were the treasurer, so you know where the money goes. So the question is, where do the funds raised from the Freedom Fund dinners, where do they go? How are they used?
So our the branch itself, we have expenses, and so I can tell you that except for the last couple of years during COVID, the whenever any type of patient that we do, a portion has to go back to our national office. So right now it's 25% that will go back to national office. But like I said, over the last couple of years, national has been gracious and has not required us to pay that assessment. But what do we do with the funds? It's to keep the operations going. There's rent that we have to pay. There's community work that we do. We support other organizations in the community. We also send our members to different conventions and meetings throughout the country. So every year we have our national convention coming up. It's going to be in Boston, and so we send delegates there to gather the information from the national level, and also to be delegates at those conventions. We also have our state convention that's actually happening starting tomorrow in Austin. So we use those funds to send people out to those events as well. One thing that we could be doing more of, as I mentioned earlier, is scholarships and helping our youth, because that, I feel as though we have fallen way, way, way short on those funds. And as treasurer, you're right. I do see the money. I know exactly how much money we have in the bank at this moment, and I know where those things are going and where they're not going. And I feel as though that as an organization that I believe that we should use as much money as possible to invest in our youth. And I just don't think that we're doing that right now. In fact, I know we're not doing that right now.
Well, if you're elected, then you're right. We have to invest more in our youth, and we have to even look at possibly how do we use some of the funds that come out of those great fundraisers to be able to make our youth more empowered in the NAACP. Possibly because of that gentrification issue, you may even have to have satellite NAACP offices to serve where the youth are, and give them a boost. I want to thank you today for your time. I do want to say, and I'll give you this close. So the elections are happening right now. Then we have another set of elections where the NAACP is housed in District 2 in San Antonio. So, how well has the council member been in working with the NAACP San Antonio? Have you guys been working hand in hand, the elected official and the organization of the NAACP, to make a difference together?
Chris, I know when you asked me that question, I was saying to myself, I said, okay, here we go. So for one, we should be working hand in hand with our District 2 councilman. We should be working hand in hand with our District 2 councilman, as well as the rest of the council throughout the city of San Antonio. Every single district, every single council district. We have 10 districts in San Antonio. We should be working with them completely. Let's just say I feel as though more can be done. I think that we can better that relationship. I think that having more of a collaborative effort to help not only in District 2 where we're housed at the Barbara Jordan Center, but because we're right next to their office and the Claude Back Center. Buildings are right next to each other, so more can be done.
More can be done.
We would definitely do more.
Well, more can be done. Also, the D2 election is very important. Historically, we've seen African Americans elected in that seat, but there's some word on the street, Mr. Gibbs, that this may be the election where an African American may not be elected. And if that's the case, the city of San Antonio may, for the first time in a long time, not have any African American representation in city council. So how would the NAACP feel about that under your leadership?
I am a strong advocate for people of color to, especially African Americans, to have a seat at the table, and the probability of that happening doesn't sit well with me. Now, I want to go on record by saying you don't have to be a person of color to be able to fight for the rights for all people, but it's something about a person who is in the struggle, who understands the struggle because they are part of the struggle. And so I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we do keep that seat and even expand the seats throughout the city. But again, the only way that can happen is that people have to get out and vote. When I look at the voter turnout, in District 2 and even throughout the city of San Antonio, it's terrible. It's terrible. When you think about the people, our ancestors who bled for and died for our right to vote, and people don't take full advantage of that I don't get. I don't miss elections. We're voting for dog catcher. I'm voting for a dog catcher. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't make sense to me that we don't do that. But I think that, and I'm veering off a little bit because voting is very dear to my heart, and I feel as though that enough of us don't exercise that right. When you think about the presidential election, when you think about local elections, when you see the number of people that go out, I think that if you told people as a whole, you know what, since you're not using your right to vote, we're going to take that vote away from you. So you will no longer have the ability to vote. Okay. If you do that, then I find that people will work harder to keep you from taking something from them than to exercise something that you give them freely. Okay. And even though the right to vote was never free, and it's still not free because, people who have, like I said, bled, fought, and died for that, people need to get out and let their voices be heard. So vote. Early voting is going on right now. So not only our council seats, but for the Bear County judge, that's happening too. Is our judges in the community. Vote your interests. Vote to make sure that your interests are being represented in the community. And if that person that's in there now is not doing that, then guess what? It's time for them to go. We're the bosses. They're not the bosses. Okay. So, and when we don't vote and don't exercise their right, they think that they're in charge and they're not.
Great points, great points, great points. Also, being that District 2 has the largest MLK march in the nation, and many would say the world, the face of the leader of the community is important. We do matter. And to see that this election that's coming up in District 2 may not retain Black excellence is something in which we really need to have deep conversations about. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we sign off, Mr. Gibbs?
Thanks, Chris. And, speaking of the election that's happening throughout for the city, the NAACP election is also going to be happening right around that time as well. So the election for NAACP is going to be happening on November 10th. And if we have your email, you'll get a email from the secretary letting you know that what the voting hours are happening from 11 to 4 on November 10th. So and also on November 1st, we're having a special call meeting of NAACP where individuals can hear from the candidates and hear about their platforms and things of nature. So as it stands right now, and don't quote me because things may change, that each candidate is going to have 3 minutes to speak, and also the audience will be able to ask questions, up to 3 questions per candidate. So please come out for that. If you haven't gotten any information yet, please reach out to NAACP and make sure that your email is on file if you're not sure, so we can make sure that you have that. So we can see you, hear you, and that your voice can be heard on November 10th in our election.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gibbs. And as well, we extend the invitation to Dr. Hudspeth, the president of the San Antonio NAACP, so that he could come on TAN TV and he can share with our audience and the voters what's important about maintaining him in leadership for another term. Again, we appreciate your time. Again, I'm Christopher Herring with TAN TV, a local feel and a global reach. And I'm so happy to be able to represent TAN today because voting matters. And every issue in which we have in our community, it's all dependent upon the vote. So if we want education to increase, it's gonna be about our vote. If we want better jobs, the vote. If we want to have better and bigger businesses, it's about your vote. You have to line up and you have to do the work. We can march, and marching in the MLK march is a very passive thing to do, but the active thing is to vote, vote, vote. So thank you again for your time, Mr. Gibbs, and we look forward to the results of the NAACP San Antonio branch. Thank you so much, and thank you, TAN TV.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.